Hi. We are going to try and get through chapter 2 and 3 of book 1. I've done a little bit of, remember, I told you I'm using this teacher's guide with reader's guide. On my book, it looks like, what was the publication date on this? This was a long time ago from one of the old schools I used to teach at, 1971. So it is an oldie, but a goodie. So if you follow along on Discord, I will post the questions. They have a lot of questions for this next chapter 2 and 3 and 4 and 5. Fatima, you're back. You're first. Yes, you are. You're the best. I'm not the best. You're the best. Hey, Fareed, you saw my message. So the second chapter, remember, we're following different themes throughout this, fitting the jigsaw together, finding all the random pieces. And this next section is going to be kind of random. It's called Book 1, Chapter 2, The Mail. It was the Dover Road. Now, I remember, this is part of what, grab your book, Fareed. I remember this Dover Road, and I've actually been to Dover, the White Cliffs of Dover. And it was right on the edge where then you can catch the ferry across to France. And that's going to be an important, when I taught, I used to put a map up of this. So you could see how they would go out and then they would catch the ferry across the straits. Are they the Straits of Dover? I don't remember now. If somebody's following along and they want to Google that, what is that strait that connects between England and France? Now people fly for the most part, but you can take a ferry. You can still take a ferry. And that's what this road is, from London to Paris. So it was the Dover Road that lay on a Friday night late in November, before the first of the persons with whom this history has business. The Dover Road lay, as to him, beyond the Dover Mail, as it lumbered up Shooter's Hill. We walked uphill in the mire by the side of the mail, as the rest of the passengers did, the mail truck. Not because they had the least relish for walking exercise under the circumstances, but because the hill and the harness and the mud and the mail were all so heavy that the horses had 3 times already come to a stop, beside once drawing the coach across the road with a mutinous intent of taking it to Blackheath. Reins and whip and coachman and guard, however, in combination, had read that article of war which forbade a purpose otherwise strongly in favor of the argument that some brute animals are endured with reason, and the team had capitulated, like allowed them. They gave up and returned to their duty. With drooping heads and tails and tremulous tails. That's going to be a word when we get to our vocabulary, tremulous, like trembling, tails, so the tail is swishing. They mashed their way through the thick mud, floundering and stumbling between whiles, as if they were falling to pieces at the larger joints. As often as the driver rested them and brought them to a stand with a wary, "Whoa-ho, so-ho, then," the near leader violently shook his head and everything upon it, like an unusually emphatic horse, denying that the coach could be got up the hill. Whenever the leader made this rattle, the passenger started, as a nervous passenger, started like startled, was startled. Fareed, what paragraph am I on? Well, this is all marked down in mine. So 1, 2, 3, the last sentence of 3. Whenever the leader made this rattle, the passenger started, as a nervous passenger might, and was disturbed in mind. There was a steaming mist in all the hollows, and it had roamed in its forlornness. To be forlorn is to be lost and sad. Forlornness, up the hill, like an evil spirit, seeking rest and finding none. A clammy and intensely cold mist, it made its slow way through the air in ripples that visibly followed and overspread one another as the waves of an unwholesome sea might do. It was dense enough to shut out everything from the light of the coach lamps, but these, its own workings, and a few yards of road, and the reek of the laboring horses steamed into it as if they made it all. So I was completely lost by now and thought, I don't care about this at all. It's just about horses in an old wagon trying to get up a muddy hill. So unless you're reading this for like something where you're going to have to know all kinds of minutia, small detail, just let me read the blah, blah, blah. It really isn't important right now. 2 other passengers besides the one were plodding up the hill by the side of the mail. All 3 were wrapped to the cheekbones and over the ears and wore jack boots. Those are the high over-the-knee boots. Not one of the three could have said from anything he saw what either of the other two was like, and each was hidden under almost as many wrappers from the eyes of the mind as from the eyes of the body of his two companions. So these people are all bundled up. You can't tell who they are. In those days, travelers were very shy of being confidential on a short notice, for anybody on the road might be a robber or in league with robbers. So they're trying to hide from one another. As to the latter, when every posting house and alehouse could produce somebody in the captain's pay, ranging from the landlord to the lowest stable nondescript, it was the likeliest thing upon the cards. So the guard of the Dover Mail thought to himself that Friday night in November, 1775. Let's put this in historical context because it is going to matter. 1776, my American students, what is 1776? Independence Day, right? So who at this point controls the United States? History majors. England. Who is England's key nemesis, their enemy? France. So we're in that setting. We're in the setting of where shortly after 1776, France is going to go have the Bastille Day. They're going to overthrow the Bastille. They're going to overthrow the French nobility. And we're going to have the rioting and the French Revolution. So this is our setting. Notice how many times they tell us the date. Lumbering up Shooter's Hill, as he stood on his particular perch behind the mail, beating his feet and keeping an eye and a hand on the arm chest before him, where a loaded blunderbuss lay at the top of 6 or 8 loaded horse pistols deposited on a substratum of cutlass. The Dover Mail was in its usual genial, happy position that the guard suspected the passengers. The passengers suspected one another. I'm trying to see what they're saying. And the guard and one another and the guard. They all suspected everybody else. And the coachman was sure of nothing but the horses, as to which cattle he could, with a clear conscience, have taken his oath on the 2 testaments that were not fit for the journey. So nobody trusts anybody. Remember, I told you at the beginning, these are uncertain and dangerous times. Whoa, said the coachman. So then, one more pull and you're at the top, and be damned to you, for I have had trouble enough to get you to it. Joe, hello, the guard replied. What o'clock do you make it, Joe? 10 minutes, good. Past 11. My blood, ejaculated the vexed coachman. To shout out as to ejaculate. Those of you today might have another meaning for that. And not atop of Shooters yet. Psst, ha, get on with you. He's talking to the horses. The emphatic horse. I hate when the fan is on. It keeps flopping my page. The emphatic horse, cut short by the whip in a most decided negative, made a decided scramble for it, and the 3 other horses followed suit. Once more, the Dover Mail struggled on, and with the jackboots of its passengers squashing along by its side, they had stopped when the coach stopped, and they kept close company with it. If any one of the 3 had had the hardihood to propose to walk on a little ahead into the mist and darkness, he would have put himself in a fair way of getting shot instantly as a highwayman. Shoshana, reading it. You're reading it in school. Yay. I'm like the Target lady. Yay. From Saturday Night Live, not the Target lady at Target, but the Target lady on Saturday Night Live. The last burst carried the mail to the summit of the hill. The horses stopped to breathe again, and the guard got down to skid the wheel of the descent and open the coach door to let the passengers in. Joe, cried the coachman in a warning voice, looking down from his box. What do you say, Tom? They both listened. I say a horse at a canter coming up, Joe. I say a horse at a gallop. So a canter is it's faster than a walk or a trot, and a gallop is as fast as a gait that the horse will go. So they're hearing something in the distance. Returned the guard, leaving his hold of the door and mounting nimbly to his place. Gentlemen, in the king's name, all of you, with this hurried adjuration, he cocked his blunderbuss like he's ready to shoot and stood on the offensive. The passenger booked by this history was on the coach step getting in. The 2 other passengers were close behind him and about to follow. He remained on the step, half in the coach and half out of it. They remained in the road below him. They all looked from the coachman to the guard, and from the guard to the coachman, and listened. The coachman looked back, and the guard looked back, and even the emphatic leader, he tends to like this word emphatic, leader pricked up his ears and looked back without contradicting. The stillness consequent on the cessation of the rumbling and laboring of the coach added to the stillness of the night, made it very quiet indeed. The panting of the horses communicated a tremulous, shaking motion of the coach, as if it were in a state of agitation. The hearts of the passengers beat loud enough perhaps to be heard, but at any rate the quiet pause was audibly expressive of people out of breath and holding the breath, and having the pulses quickened by expectation. The sound of a horse at a gallop came fast and furiously up the hill. Fast and Furious. See, back then they had the title, Fast and Furious. So ho, the guard sang out as loud as he could row. You there, stand, I shall fire. Stand means stop. I'll fire, I'm going to shoot you. Pace was suddenly checked, and with much splashing and floundering, a man's voice called from the mist. Is that the Dover mail? The mail coach that takes the mail to Dover. Never you mind what it is, the guard retorted. What are you? Is that the Dover mail? Why do you want to know? I want a passenger, if it is. What passenger? Mr. Now this name, if you're reading for the book, this is going to be a main character. Not a main character, but a regular character. Mr. Jarvis Lorry, Lorry. Our booked passenger showed in a moment that it was his name. The guard, the coachman, and the two other passengers eyed him distrustfully. Keep where you are, the guard called to the voice in the mist. Because if I should make a mistake, it could never be set right in your lifetime. Like if you do something crazy and I accidentally shoot you, you're dead. I can't repair it. Gentlemen of the name of Lorry, answer straight. What is the matter? Asked the passenger, then with mildly quavering speech. Who wants me? Is it Jerry? I don't like Jerry's voice. If it is Jerry, growled the guard to himself, he's hoarser than suits me, is Jerry. Yes, Mr. Lorry. What is the matter? A dispatch, we don't have these kinds of things anymore, like a special message that came over the wire. You don't know what the wire means. It's like a special text message that ends up in paper. And Christopher says, thank you for reading. It helps me a lot, even though I'm not reading this book, Lord of the Flies. That is on my playlist. Hi. Lord of the Flies is on my playlist, Christopher. If you go back, if you've subscribed to me, I think you can do it even if you haven't. Go to my playlist and you'll find it there. Yay, I love when I have something somebody wants. So it turns out that Mr. Jarvis Lorry, who is a passenger, is being sought for by a guy named Jerry, that he will also become a character throughout the book. And he's delivering an important message. I know this messenger, guard, said Mr. Lorry. No, what is the matter? A dispatch sent after you from over yonder, Tea and Company. I know this messenger, guard, said Mr. Lorry, getting down into the road, assisted from behind more swiftly than politely by the other two passengers, who immediately scrambled into the coach, shut the door, and pulled up the window. He may come close. There's nothing wrong. I hope there ain't, but I can't make so nation sure of that, said the guard in gruff soliloquy. Hello, you. Well, and hello, you, said Jerry more coarsely than before. Come on at a foot pace, do you mind ye? And if you've got holsters to that saddle of yourn, don't let me see your hand go nigh him. So if you've got guns, don't put your hand near those guns. For I'm a devil at a quick mistake. And when I make one, it takes a form of lead. I'm quick to shoot you, is what he's saying. So now let's look at you. The figures of a horse and rider came slowly through the eddying mist and came to the side of the mail where the passenger stood. The rider stopped and, casting up his eyes at the guard, handed the passenger a small folded paper. The rider's horse was blown, and both horse and rider were covered with mud. So the rider's horse, he'd been galloping that whole way, so the horse is tired. Covered with mud from the hoofs of the horse to the hat of the man. Guard, said the passenger in a tone of quiet business confidence. The watchful guard, with his right hand on the stock of his raised blunderbuss, his left at the barrel, and his eye on the horseman, answered curtly, Sir, there is nothing to apprehend. I belong to Tellson's Bank. You must know Tellson's Bank in London. So he's saying, this is who I work for. I'm going to Paris on business. A crown to drink. I may read this. A crown is a type of money, so he's saying, I'll pay you for your inconvenience. He opened it in the light of the coach lamp at the on that side and read, first to himself and then aloud, wait at Dover for Mademoiselle. It's not long, you see, guard. Jerry, say that my answer was recalled to life. So we've got a little bit of a mystery that's going to make sense shortly. He's got this message that says recalled to life, and that's the name of this chapter. Jerry started in his saddle. That's a blazing strange answer too, said he at his hoarsest. Take that message back, and they will know that I received this as well as if I wrote it. Make the best of your way. Good night. With those words, the passenger opened the coach door and got in, not at all assisted by his fellow passengers, who had expeditiously secreted their watches and purses in their boots, and so they were hiding all expeditiously right away. They were hiding all of their valuables so that if this was a highwayman, a robber, that they would be safe. With no more definite purpose than to escape the hazard of originating any other kind of action, the coach lumbered on again, with heavier wreaths of mist closing around it as it began the descent. The guard soon replaced his blunderbuss in his arm chest, and having looked to the rest of its contents, and having looked at the supplementary pistols that he wore in his belt, looked to a smaller chest beneath his seat, in which there were a few smith's tools, a couple of torches, and a tinderbox. For he was furnished with that completeness that if the coach lamps had been blown and stormed out, which did occasionally happen, he had only to shut himself up inside, keep the flint and steel sparks well off the straw, and get a light with tolerable safety and ease, if he were lucky, in 5 minutes. Hi, Teen Idol. Tom, softly over the coach roof. Hello, Joe. Did you hear the message? I did, Joe. What did you make of it, Tom? Nothing at all, Joe. That's a coincidence, too, the guard mused, for I made the same of it myself. I don't know what's going on, they're saying. Jerry, left alone in the mist and darkness, dismounted, meanwhile, not only to ease his spent horse, but to wipe the mud from his face and shake the wet out of his hat brim, which might be capable of holding about half a gallon. After standing with the bridle over his heavily splashed arm until the wheels of the mail were no longer within hearing and the night was quite still again, he turned to walk down the hill. After that, there galloped from Temple Bar, old lady. I won't trust your forelegs till I get you on the level, said this horse messenger, glancing at his mare, recalled to life. That's a blazing strange message. Much of that wouldn't do for you. Jerry, I say, Jerry, you'd be a blazing bad way if recalling to life was to come into fashion, Jerry. And chapter 3 is short, but I want to look at some questions from this section. So how does Dickens describe conditions in England in 1775? So we know, we've talked about that a little bit, that it's dangerous, that they're superstitious, that it's typical to be robbed, those kinds of things. What event does Dickens refer to in Messages from a Congress of British Subjects in America? I don't remember that part. How does he describe conditions in France? Oh, we haven't gotten there yet. Unit 1, book the first, chapter 1. Oh, yes, you did. I didn't pay attention to that. See, that's where I'm not good as a teacher, because I don't ask all those picky little questions. Fareed, I have a drawing after the chapter. Oh, good. Let's go to chapter 2. Here we go. Why is Mr. Lorry traveling to Paris? Why does he plan to take Lucy? Oh, we don't know that yet, so I'm not going to tell you that because that's 2 through 6. Do you have one in your copy? I don't have any pictures in my book, but I know them. I've had books that had pictures in them. So I don't think you can you screenshot it and share it here, link it here, or we'll just share it in Discord? Because I don't think you can add pictures on YouTube chat. All right, some of the words, I did have some good words. Characters and their motives, social and historical setting, reading in depth, We haven't read enough of it yet. Tremulous is one of our words. Cessation is one of our words. To cease, cease and desist, to stop. Submerged, a submarine, it goes under. Sinister, we haven't read that one yet. So let's read chapter 3, because that's 20 minutes, and chapter 3 I'll finish by 30. Happy Naria. I was following along to one of your books, read-alongs, and it helped me pass English. I love, and hopefully you did better than pass. Hopefully you got a C or a B. So good job. I'm glad it was helpful. You know, reading the book does make a difference on doing well in the study. But just like that part where some of these teachers get these questions, they're like, is that really important? I didn't even pay attention to that. I always struggled with that as a student, and I didn't like to ask those questions as a teacher. All right, chapter 3 is called The Night Shadows. A wonderful fact to reflect upon, that every human creature is constituted to be that profound secret and mystery to every other. A solemn consideration when I enter a great city by night, that every one of those darkly clustered houses enclosed its own secret, that every room in every one of them encloses its own secret, that every beating heart in hundreds of thousands of breasts there is, and something of its imaginings, a secret to the heart nearest it, something of the awfulness, even of death itself, is referable to this. No more can I turn the leaves of this dear book that I loved and vainly hope in time to read it all. No more can I look into the depths of this unfathomable water, wherein, as momentary lights glanced into it. So just when it starts to get exciting, he goes back to this filler stuff, and it made me crazy. What book am I reading? Oh, you're talking to Happy. You got an A. That's more than pass. That's awesome. That means you mastered the book. And Freed's question is a good one. What were you reading? Kimberly, you're so welcome. What are you thanking me for? But you're still so welcome. So now we're back to kind of just lots of words with no point. I've had glimpses of buried treasure and other things submerged. It was appointed that the book should shut with a spring forever and forever when I had read but a page. It was appointed that the water should be locked in an eternal frost when the light was playing on its surface, and I stood in ignorance on the shore. My friend is dead. My neighbor is dead. My love, the darling of my soul, is dead. It is the inexorable consolation and perpetuation of the secret that was always in that individuality, which I shall carry in mind to my life's end. And any of the burial places of this city through which I pass, is there a sleeper more inscrutable than its busy inhabitants are, in the innermost personality to me, or than I am to them? So he's talking about the secrets of people. And do you have read alouds of it? Do you like a separate piece, Jonathan? Yay! That's 2 for 2 tonight. Separate piece is on my reading list. If you go to the playlist, go back to my homepage, my main page, look at playlists, and it'll have, you click on that, it'll have all the books. I don't really know what order, they're not alphabetical, but if you search through it, a separate piece is on there. Yay! So I'll be honest with you, I don't really know what that whole paragraph was about. Just people having secrets. As to this, his natural and not to be alienated inheritance, the messenger on horseback had exactly the same possessions as the king, the first minister of state, or the richest merchant in London. So with the 3 passengers shut up in the narrow compass of one lumbering old mail coach, they were mysteries to one another, as complete as if each had been in his own coach and 6 horses, or his own coach and 60, with the breadth of the country between him and the next. The messenger rode back at an easy trot, stopping pretty often at ale houses, so like their pubs, by the way, to drink, but evincing a tendency to keep his own counsel, like showing that he sticks to himself. He's not chatty like I would be. If you got stuck on a train with me, I'd want to talk to you. These people don't. They're just all bundled up and scared of one another. He had eyes that assorted very well with that decoration, being of a surface black, no depth in the color or form, and much too near together, as if they were afraid of being found out in something singly if they kept too far apart. They had a sinister expression, sinister like dangerous, like you can't trust. If you are Disney fans and you think about Jasmine, what was the Jafar? Jafar was very sinister looking, scary and dangerous, and you can't trust him. Where'd my word sinister go? They had a sinister expression under an old cocked hat, like a three-cornered spittoon, and over a great muffler is a scarf, of the chin and throat, which descended nearly to the wearer's knees. When he stopped for drink, he moved his muffler with his, that's also scarf. I already said that. It was the same word. With his left hand, only while he poured his liquor in with his right. As soon as that was done, he muffled again. He wrapped himself up again. No, Jerry, no, said the messenger, harping on one theme as he rode. I wouldn't do it for you, Jerry. Jerry, you honest tradesman, it wouldn't suit your line of business. Recalled. Bust me if I don't think he's been a drinking. His message perplexed his mind to that degree that he was vain, like pretending. Several times to take off his hat to scratch his head, like, I don't get it. Except on the crown, which was raggedly bald, he had stiff black hair. So we've got characterization. We're getting a description of the character. Standing jaggedly all over it and growing downhill almost to his broad, blunt nose. It was so like Smith's work, so much like the top of a strongly spiked wall than a head of hair, that the best players of leapfrog might have declined him as the most dangerous man in the world to go over. So he's got this really spiky hair. While he trotted back with the message he was to deliver to the night watchman in his box at the door of Tellson's Bank by Temple Bar, who was to deliver it to a great authorities within, the shadows of the night took much shape to him as arose out of the message, and took such shapes to the mare as arose out of her private topics of uneasiness. They seemed to be numerous, for she shied at every shadow on the road. The horse is scared too. This is all setting the foreshadowing. What time the mail coach lumbered, jolted, rattled, and bummed upon its tedious way with its three fellow inscrutables inside. Inscrutables, you can't tell who they are. To whom likewise the shadows of the night revealed themselves in the forms of their dozing eyes and wandering thoughts, suggested Tellson's Bank had a run up upon it in the mail as a bank passenger with an arm drawn through the leather strap, which did what lay in it to keep him from pounding against the next passenger and driving him into his corner, so he could hold on to it and kind of stay on his side. Instead of all the jolting around, he would hit the person sitting next to him. Whenever the coach got a special jolt, nodded in his place with half-shut eyes, the little coach windows and the coach lamp dimly gleaming through them, and the bulky bundle of opposite passenger became the bank and did a great stroke of business. The rattle of the harness was the chink of money, and more drafts were honored in 5 minutes than even Tellson's, with all its foreign and home connection, ever paid in three times the time. Then the strong rooms underground, like the strong rooms are the vaults. Strong rooms underground at Tellson's, which was, remember, that's the bank, which such of their valuable stores and secrets as were known to the passengers, it was not a little that he knew about them, like he knows a lot about them, open before him, and he went in among them with the great keys and the feebly burning candle and found them safe and strong and sound and still, just as he had last seen them. But though the bank was almost always with him, and though the coach, in a confused way, like the presence of pain under an opiate, was always with him, like the feeling. He's always aware that even if he's not at the bank, he's always aware of the bank. He's a workaholic, basically. But they were all the faces of a man of 5 and 40 by years. 5 and 40, 45. They do the years in a weird way, right? 45. And they differed principally in the passions they expressed and in the ghastliness of their worn and wasted state. Pride, contempt, defiance, stubbornness, submission, lamentation succeeded one another. So did varieties of sunken cheek, cadaverous color, A cadaver is a dead body. So cadaverous color means pale. Cadaverous color, emaciated hands, like wasted away to there's no fat on you. Hands and figures, but the face was in the main one face, and every head was prematurely white. 100 times a dozing passenger inquired of the specter, "Buried how long?" The answer was always the same, "Almost 18 years." "You had abandoned all hope of being dug out?" "Long ago." "You know that you are recalled to life?" "They tell me so." "I hope you care to live." "I can't say." "Shall I show her to you?" "Will you come and see her?" The answers to this question were various and contradictory. Sometimes the broken, now, if you're confused, you're supposed to be. But I know what's going on because I've read the book before. "Wait, it would kill me if I saw her too soon." Sometimes it was given in a tender rain of tears, and then it was, "Take me to her." Sometimes it was staring and bewildered, and then it was, I don't know her. I don't understand." So we have this character that we're being introduced to who's confused, and we don't know who the she is that they're referring to. After such imaginary discourse, the passenger in his fancy would dig and dig now with a spade, now with a great key, now with his hands, to dig this wretched creature out. Got out at last, with earth hanging about his face and hair, he would suddenly fall away to dust. The passenger would then start to himself, like be surprised, and lower the window to get the reality of mist and rain on his cheek. Yet even when his eyes were opened on the mist and rain, on the moving patch of light from the lamps, and the hedge at the roadside retreating by jerks, the night shadows outside the coach would fall into the train of the night shadows within. The real banking house by Temple Bar, the real business of the past day, the real strong rooms, the real express sent after him, the real message returned would all be there. Out of the midst of them, the ghostly face would rise, and he would accost it again. "Buried how long?" "Almost 18 years." "I hope you care to live." "I can't say." Repetition. Dig, 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 until an impatient movement from one of the two passengers would admonish him to pull up the window, draw his arm securely through the leathern strap, and speculate upon the two slumbering forms until his mind lost its hold of them, and they again slid away into the bank and the grave. "Buried how long?" "Almost 18 years." "You had abandoned all hope of being dug out?" "Long ago." The words were still in his hearing as just spoken, distinctly in his hearing as ever spoken words had been in his life. When the weary passenger started the consciousness of daylight and found that the windows of the night were gone, he lowered the window and looked out at the rising sun. There was a ridge of plowed land, with a plow upon it where it had been left last night when the horses were unyoked. Beyond, a quiet coppice wood, like a field of trees, in which many leaves of burning red and golden yellow still remained upon the trees. Though the earth was golden wet, the sky was clear, and the sun rose bright, placid, peaceful, and beautiful. 18 years, said the passenger, looking at the sun. Gracious creator of day, to be buried alive for 18 years. That's the end of chapter 3. So my question is, are you completely lost? Who are they talking about? Who's been buried for 18 years? Just keep track of 18 years. That's going to become important. I'm trying to figure out what this is on my eye because I can feel it going into my eye. It's like hair or something is caught there. So what do you think? If you're lost, like, would you have given up before? Because I did. Every time I got this far, it's like, I don't get it. I don't get what's going on. I'm telling you, it's going to be a great book. Stick with me. Let's figure out what the mystery is. Because the way the next section is, this unit is chapter 2 through 6. We only read 2 and 3. So on Discord, I'll put some of the questions up. There's a lot of them. I don't know if I'll take all the pictures. I'll see how many of you guys want to answer the questions. Or if you're reading this for school, let me know some of your questions and we can talk about them. But some of the vocabulary I think is useful. Tremulous, cessation, submerged, we've done those. Sinister, Duke the Loose, hi to you. Disconcerted. I think we did disconcerted, but we didn't do mutilated. We didn't do prevalent. We didn't do homage. We didn't do transformation or coercion. So it's a great way to develop your vocabulary contextually and practicing the words. If you have any questions about the story, let me know. If you read ahead, don't spoil it for any of us. And if you want to discuss it, join me on Discord. I will try and put a link to Discord on when I post this. Guys, we're still hovering right under 12,000. I'm like tired of hovering under 12,000. Then I lose some, then I gain some. I think we get a lot of, can you see that like black dot? I don't know what it is. It's making me crazy. We get a lot of porn links. Don't click on them. I know that the minute I say don't click on them, you're clicking them. I try and delete them as soon as they post. They're after you. They want your money. Don't fall prey to it. And then we'll keep posting. But I want to break 12,000. I don't know why. I just do. I need little goals in my life. Thanks for reading along with me. If you haven't subscribed, Duke Deleuze, do that for me. If you have, isn't this an old book? It is not attractive at all, but the words are attractive. No pictures. So Fareed, if you're still there, add your pictures to Discord. And I'm going to go read on my own for a book club I'm in this book, Angle of Repose. Apparently Wallace Stegner was a big author, Pulitzer Prize winning author. I've just learned about him. I like his writing story style, but the story I haven't been pulled into yet. So we talk about the books we like too in Discord. So if you like to talk about books or you just want to chat to me, join us over at Discord. In the meantime, subscribe and like so you know when I go on live. I'm going to really try and read consistently because Tale of Two Cities is going to take and you can see I'm in a different place in my house. I was too lazy to sit in an uncomfortable chair on the porch. I'm in my cozy recliner, just curled up with y'all. Fareed, thank you for always being such a good support. And you know how I close out. I will read to you next time. See ya. Don't forget to subscribe or get friends too. 12,000. See ya.